one, I want to correct one piece of the premise. When you get 49%, which is a plurality, not a majority, it's not a mandate.
No, it's not a mandate.
Okay, but so one, they overinterpreted just like George Bush did in 2004. And he said, I got a mandate, and he went to privatize Social Security, and he got smacked in 2006. Okay. They do not have a mandate.
Who gives a fuck? He won the election. He won all 7 swing states.
They are trying to believe something, and that's safe streets, strong schools, stable finances. Focus on those 3 things, and your city's going to be fine. We've gone through 5 years where people became way too permissive of the culture. They were all, which is why everything's locked up at Walgreens and CVS, and that is a disaster. Yeah. And our school, and I'll say this about our schools: I don't want to hear another word about the locker room. I don't want to hear another word about the bathroom. You better start focusing on the classroom.
Bill Maher just got completely shut down, and the crowd went wild. Moments like this don't happen often, and trust me, this one will be remembered as one of the most epic takedowns, right up there with Zelensky. Before we roll the clip, make sure to like and subscribe. Recently, Maher sat down with Rahm Emanuel and Fareed Zakaria, and let's just say, they didn't hold back. But before we dive into how they completely dismantled Maher, let's check out their take on Trump. This is the kind of straight talk we've all been waiting for.
What do you think about Trump's proposed $5 million gold card visa for wealthy foreigners? Is it smart economic move or a problematic policy? I guess I know what he's talking about. Trump wants to sell a visa. Do you get permanent residency? By the way, I looked this up, we are hardly the first country to do this. Doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. But, I remember...
Yeah, we actually have a version of it. It's called, I think it's called the EB5 or something like that. So it's fine to do it. I actually think, maybe it's because I'm, very patriotic. I think 5 million, we should be charging 20 million, or, American citizenship is worth more than that.
It comes with Ukrainian minerals, though.
But what I love about Trump is he said, you get the green card, but with this, the gold card, you get extra privileges. like what? You get to vote twice?
It's amazing.
Well, now you're speaking Chicago language. I'm for it, but it's part of a bigger package on immigration reform. It's been 42 years since the last one, so I'm not against it, but it's part of a whole package.
You and I both know it's rare to see this kind of energy on Bill Maher's show, but let's be real, this was not the reaction he was expecting. Rahm Emanuel and Fareed Zakaria absolutely nailed it. And the best part, they gave Bill a reality check he won't be forgetting anytime soon.
What's going on in Chicago?
Look, we were talking about this a little earlier. You have also the mayor of New York not doing well. Obviously, other things also here in Los Angeles not doing well, the mayor here. Look, and then you got mayors, like the mayor in San Francisco and other cities that are doing well. So I would say, look, there is a general rule. I had this when I was mayor. Safe streets, strong schools, stable finances. Focus on those 3 things, and your city's going to be fine. We've gone through 5 years where people became way too permissive of the culture. They were all, which is why everything's locked up at Walgreens and CVS.
This is incredible. Just look at how clearly he broke everything down in one go. And this right here is exactly why things are such a mess. For years, they've been pushing this so-called woke agenda into our education system. And that's the real issue. We need more people willing to speak the truth. But of course, Bill Maher will just brush it off, like he always does.
Scores for 8th graders in 30 years. And nobody, not a governor, not a mayor, not a president, not a secretary of education is talking about it. We're all wrapped up. Look, in 7th grade, if I known that I could have said the word they and got in the girls' bathroom, I would have done it. We literally are a superpower. We're facing off against China with 1.4 billion people, and 2/3 of our children can't read 8th grade level. So no more about the lot. Wait a second, I'm on a roll for a second. I don't want to hear another word about the classroom. I don't want to hear another word about the bathroom until you tell me what you're going to do with the classroom.
Did you catch that? Even the crowd cheered. They were clearly glad to finally hear some truth. But that's not even the best part. Just wait until you see how he takes them down, point by point. It's brutal.
There's a pattern in American politics, and it's about overreaching. Whenever someone wins an election big time, and Trump kind of did, they
overreach. And that seems to be what's going on. And I said, maybe the best thing the Democrats can do is just be as lame as they are, and that strategy's working perfectly.
No, well,
And James Carville this week kind of one-upped it. He said, what the Democrats, I'm just asking, I'm not saying I necessarily agree with it. He said, they need to just play dead, because this administration, only 5 weeks old, is making itself so unpopular that the worst thing anybody else can do is just get in the way. They're digging a hole, let them dig. That's James Carville.
that must be the applause for the whole part, right there.
They kept trying to cut him off, but he didn't back down, just kept dropping truth after truth without hesitation. And look at Bill Maher, just sitting there, silent, because every word this guy is saying is spot on. I especially love the moment he shut down the CNN guy by saying, "I don't need a role." Let's be real, that network is all about pushing fake news. But watch how Bill scrambles to twist the conversation and steer it right back into his usual Democrat talking points. Classic.
I want to correct one piece of the premise. When you get 49%, which is a plurality, not a majority, it's not a mandate.
No, it's not a mandate.
Okay, but so one, they overinterpreted just like George Bush did in 2004. And he said, I got a mandate, and he went to privatize Social Security, and he got smacked in 2006.
Okay.
They do not have a mandate.
Who gives a fuck? He won the election. He won all 7 swing states.
They are trying to believe something, and that's misinterpreting. Now, number one. Number two, let me say what
changes nothing.
James Carville, who is a dear friend, said 2 things in there that aren't the same. He said retreat, and he said rope-a-dope. And rope-a-dope, it's not a retreat. He was using your strengths against your opponent's weaknesses. And rope-a-dope, in the sense of allowing Donald Trump to do what he is doing, and I think the biggest fights beyond what we just saw in the Oval Office will be when he literally tries to cut people's health care to pay for tax cuts for the rich people, for Elon Musk, and the rest of the people he's hanging with. And that is where you're going to see the biggest fight, and I think there is where you engage. I don't agree with the idea, now, genetically, I don't agree with the idea of retreating. It's just not in my DNA. But rope-a-dope and retreating, which he used in that piece, is not the same strategy, and I would not retreat.
It's honestly mind-blowing how the woke crowd still refuses to accept that Trump is president. They just can't handle it, especially Bill Maher. Did you catch how the audience burst into applause when it was pointed out that Trump has already achieved more in just a few weeks than they ever expected? It's almost like Bill needs a new audience because even they aren't falling for his nonsense anymore. Just watch how he completely loses control of the conversation. It's priceless.
If you look at democratic cities, they are terribly run. They have incredibly high taxes. It is impossible to build, so the cost of housing... Let me finish. I give you a chance. The cost of housing is crazy in places like New York and Chicago. If you look at democratic states, you go look at New York versus Florida, okay? Roughly the same population. The budget of New York State is twice that of Florida. What do they have? Streets paved with gold? I live in New York. I pay the highest taxes in New York. You get nothing for it. And I think that is the image people have of the Democratic Party. Lots of taxes, lots of regulation, but nothing gets done.
Hey,
and I
live in LA.
Right.
It's honestly hilarious watching Bill Maher desperately try to convince himself of anything but the truth. The guy's living in his own little world. And you know the saying, never. Interrupt your opponent when they're in the middle of destroying themselves. Honestly, I think the Democrats are unintentionally following that playbook, and in the end, it might just work in our favor. Before long, we could be living in a world where things are finally peaceful, without their constant nonsense getting in the way.